well over 12, 13 years ago and addressing the students of the college then. It's been very nice. Okay. And thank you once again. So, being World Samskrit Day, we'll take up a few aspects. We'll share some slides with the students of the Sanskrit department and take up a few aspects.
And before that, I would like to actually appreciate how she started, Dr. Usha ma'am, how she started with the prayer from Gopala Vimsati, very appropriate for Janmashtami, which is just round the corner. And also she said something very nice. She spoke about culture and Sanskrit and Samskritam, Samskriti. And she said not a single day goes where we don't go and look for data. I mean, we don't get and collect the data. The actual point is this civilization is so cultured, is so rich in Samskriti that you will find more than one data. It is just that we are able to collect our limitation, that we are able to collect only one. But the civilization has got so much and so much, and each of you is going to actually help in contributing and taking this culture forward. So glad to see so many of you taking interest in this language and pursuing it with so much of interest, like she said about a girl from the village who had come. So it's a real pleasure for us to actually be talking to you. So with that, we'll get started with the session and what we can share with you in this limited time. Can we share our screen, ma'am?
So we start with this word. The word Samskritam, as she said, is ancient, as ancient as it can be. But look at the word, how in the English language, the word has evolved over the last close to 400 years. And yes, see how it's all slowly, see how people have said, they even said the Sanskrit.
And Sanskrit.
Sanskrit, Sanskrt. All that finally it's come down to Sanskrit. Of course, as ma'am said, we also take serious objection to this word Sanskrit. It's actually Samskrit or Samskritam is the right word, but certainly not Sanskrit. Unfortunately, that's what ruled for about 100 years, we can see from then to here. Because when you use the word in English, Sanskrit, look at this, the word sans. The word sans means without. I will do this job sans this. You do this sans this means sans means without. Be it here or here. So when you say sans, it means without. Whereas the language Samskritam, Sanskrit is with. So the difference fundamentally between the two is with or without. So Sanskrit is without. That is why the people removed the soul from it. Samskritam has the soul in it. Sanskrit is devoid of it. So right from the way we should pronounce it and say it is not Sanskrit but Samskrit, Samskritam. So that's why we made a separate banner for this. So let's all know how it's come through and relish it. Now, there has always been a big question mark as to the origins of languages. And world over now, these two languages, Tamil and Sanskrit, are looked at as some of the oldest languages in the world. And also there's been sometimes debate, very ill-informed debate as to which is older. Now let's look at two examples of some of the early grammarians. They are not the earliest grammarians. They are only early grammarians. That is for us living in the year 2020, they are early grammarians. But again, these two grammarians, one in Sanskrit, that is Panini, and in Tamil Tolkappiyar, both of them identify themselves as later grammarians. That means much before them, there have been antiquity of grammarians. So let us see, for us who are early grammarians, but who themselves identify themselves as later grammarians, what they have got to say about the origin or the antiquity of their language. Let's see one example here of Panini in his Ashtadhyayi, he very clearly says it is based on Indra and from there on to Shiva. Commonly, when we see this, what do we see? We see Indra is a person riding on a white elephant, Airavata. Others, Shiva, Shankara, we see Shiva. But are these the two meanings that Panini is ascribing to here? Is what we need to understand. Of course, this is in Panini's Ashtadhyayi there. Similarly, if you look at Tolkappiyar, what does he say? He also quotes very similarly. He says his grammar is based on Indra's grammar, which in turn is derived from Shiva's grammar. Look at how both of them say almost the mirror image, same thing. How is this possible? And both of them living across, and they very clearly say this. And both the languages precede form based on, very clearly he says this in his preface of his book Tolkappiyam. And both the languages equal antiquity, and they precede much before Tolkappiyam and the present Tamil language that we know. So it's not the first grammar book, he says, and he's only come to refine the already existing work. So that means he's a much later person. For us, he's a venerable earlier person. Look at the contrast there. And how does this come about is what we'll see now. And he says words borrowed from either language can be used in the other either. So they're basically coming to speak about similar languages. Now, let's look at the point. So we have a great scholar. The word great is too small for both of them. Scholars. And across the geography of the land, one of them is from Afghanistan. Today, Afghanistan is unfortunately in so much of turmoil, but Panini's roots can be traced there also.
But his life ended in South.
Patanjali. So that is those two. But let's see, what does the term Indra and Shiva here mean for us? Let's look at these two. It's a simple animation. Both of them trace, as you have seen, to Indra. What does Indra have? Indriya, the senses. So both of them trace the origin of their respected languages to the senses that we have in our body. How many senses do we have? 5, isn't it? 5 senses. So it's all traced to Indriya, the senses. So what we are able to perceive with our senses. And that in turn, where do these senses come from? Can senses live by itself on its own? Surely not. It has to have life, Jivan.
A body and a life.
And a body and a life. The senses by itself cannot be anything. As she said, it needs a body. What is the body? You can say Shiva. Is this the Shiva that we are speaking about? Since you're all in Trichy, I'm saying, is this the Shiva that we have in Tiruvanekaval? Or
Yes, sir.
the forms of Shiva? So, when you look at the word Shiva, look at this beautifully. What is the opposite of the word Shiva? Shiva, we've seen, okay, from Indra it goes up to Shiva. But what is the opposite of the word Shiva? Anybody? I've asked you a very simple question. Shiva, I've said life, Jivan. What's the opposite of Shiva?
Death.
Death. What do you call that in Sanskrit? Or any Indian language? Tamil, Assamese, Punjabi, any language?
Mridyu.
Shiva. Very nice. So, Shiva, the opposite of Shava. What is the difference between Shiva and Shava?
Sound, from sound.
Phonetically and in text. Any student, anybody.
It's the E sound.
Between Shava, if you add an E, if you infuse an E in it, it becomes Shiva, isn't it?
Yes.
What is this E? Is it alphabet E? Illa Tamil solra E kosuva? Illa Samskrit la solra? Illa Pariya Tamil solra? E na enna artham varthanga? I'm asking you because all of you are ladies. This specific question, we are putting it because all of you are ladies. There's a clue. The E is provided by Shakti. So only when you infuse Shakti,
That you get Shiva. And Okay, could just continue. I
So
won't
only
read
when
the
you
whole of it.
infuse Shakti, you get Shiva, only when you get life.
But now the point here, just see, why do they say Indra and Shiva? Yes, we are seeing senses and we are seeing Jivan, which is with a body. So you're seeing senses and body, and the beauty. You all know that you all would have been told that Sanskrit as a language is based on sounds of nature. The roots are from nature, they're derived from nature, and that goes for all languages.
That.
Now, how do you experience nature? You experience nature only through your senses, through the sounds you hear, through the colors you see, through the textures you feel. So, all of these actually, so when Panini or Tolkappiyar, they are both saying that my language, I owe it to senses, Indriya. They are also saying that I'm getting it from nature around me. My senses are feeding everything, all this knowledge to me, which is then becoming my knowledge, my language. And I would not have the senses if I do not have a body and life. So it is very natural when when these grammarians are ascribing it to Indra and Shiva. So on one side, you can look at them as figures that we draw, like a man sitting in meditation or a king riding an elephant. But the inner way to understand, which has been told to you repeatedly by people who teach you that this is from nature, this is from nature, this is how it is beautifully being described.
By both of them, the later grammarians, by their definition, but early grammarians for us, they are saying that their language, their respected language, is coming from senses, Indra, Indriya, which in turn comes from life, Shiva.
So, from here itself, you will be able to understand that these languages that we talk about are have already been described in the form of an allegory, in the form of a context. So they are very contextual. There is allegory, there is symbolism, there is deeper meaning,
Layers
of meaning in all our languages. Somebody had raised a hand. I just saw a message. Some Deepa or somebody had raised a hand.
If you have any question, please feel free to put it in chat box for ma'am to raise it, or you can raise it a little. Choice is yours. We are open to dialogue discussion.
Girls, when you raise hands, it means you have some doubt. You can feel free. Anybody can unmute, ask, and then immediately mute after you raise the question. You're most welcome. The session can be interactive.
Yes, certainly. Thank you, ma'am. We love an interactive session. But look at this, a larger message from this. What? Both languages, antiquity is similar. Both languages, source is similar. Means what? They are sibling languages. They are sister languages. They are twin languages, claiming the same source, same antiquity. So one is not lesser than the other, one is not more than the other. As ma'am used a nice simile at the beginning of when she presented about the two eyes. Here is the two eyes of the land, the two languages of the land. So if somebody tells you that my language is bigger, your language is bigger, this is no, that's no. What we're talking is without sufficient knowledge. Here are the two people whom we finally refer to, and what they are saying is absolutely same and common.
And they are using the same words to describe these two aspects. They are both referring to Indra, they are both referring to Shiva. What more do we want for commonality?
And both say you can use the other language words in your poetry, in your expression. They're both leaving it open. That's the beauty of it. Look at this. So all that we are arguing about language without understanding the depth of this becomes immaterial, or without a sane understanding. Now, all of us being the field of knowledge, seekers of knowledge, education, we need to bring this out in our own interesting, educated manner to the people at large and say there's no need of any divide or fight based on language, because both languages are absolutely parallel. Which, if you have a railway track, which track is bigger, which track is smaller, which track is longer, which track is thinner, which track is shorter?
Which line?
Between the two lines in a railway track. Can a train run without it? With one is thicker, one is thinner, one is longer, one is shorter, one is fatter. Not possible, isn't it? So they're parallel. And they do meet somewhere in infinity in the end. Or millennia. The infinity here meaning millennia. They meet. So look at the beauty of it. Innately expressed. We'll go to the next point now. I hope that you found this interesting. Shall we go to the next point? And
Yes,
look at
sir.
this. Pardon?
Yes.
Look at this. Both the languages source themselves from the primordial sound of Damru. This is there in Shiva Sutra, isn't it? The 14 aksharas, base aksharas. So it goes back to Shiva when it says it, the implement. Don't look at it here, the implement, how sounds emanate in the overall universe. What do we call universe? See, the word universe is a very Anglican word. Universe meaning uni, one. But what do we call it? Any idea? Anybody would like to say, what does it we call it in Tamil or Sanskrit, anywhere? What do we call this universe? All world languages come from. What do we call universe?
What is the word we use? Anyone?
Anybody?
Prapancham.
Very good.
Prapancham. What does the word prapancham mean? Very good answer. Answer to the point. What does it mean?
Endless one.
No, that is Ananta. Endless is Ananta.
Why prapancha? What aspect of the universe does this word prapancham bring out?
Pancha means what?
5.
5. So pra is nature, prakriti. So that which is made up of the natural 5. Isn't it? That's prapancham. Are you made up of 5? The 5 primordial elements? We'll do it another session. We'll do on the primordial elements. Today we may not have time for it. So everybody is made up of 5. The sun, the moon, Jupiter, planet, all Saturn, Uranus, all the stars. Everything is made up of 5. That's why we call it prapancha. Look at how beautifully we call it. Going to the next slide of the Shiva Sutra. We'll discuss that some other day. Look at how the languages have evolved. The word Samskritam has been used 5,000 years back itself. But when you come to the Veda period, that is when the Veda were last not composed but compiled.
Not even compiled, recompiled.
The 28th time, at that time the language was called Vak. Then by the time of Patanjali and Panini, what do they call it? Not Vak alone, but they gave it a name, Bhasha. He uses the word Samskritam also, but he also uses the word Bhasha. Okay, so the word Samskritam is certainly used, but they call it Bhasha. And by the time of Kalidasa, this is 500 BC roughly, give or take a few centuries here there. We're not getting into a date here in this presentation, but it's just giving indicative idea for you. Could be much earlier too. By the time of Kalidasa, that is 1,000 years later or thereabouts, it's called Arya Bhasha. The word Arya is got nothing to do with race. Erroneously said, please delete it from all the minds. There's nothing called Aryan race. It's a wrong, taboo, wrong word. Enforced on us by the colonialists. Arya means noble. That's what Arya bound, where you have good food to eat. Isn't it? So Arya is noble. So Arya Bhasha, the noble language. Because he saw nobility in the way we speak, the way we live.
And the way we express in our language, the way we think and the way we express what we think. Even what we express, like the way we just saw, when we say it is coming from nature, We are saying it is coming from Indra, it is coming from Shiva. So we are elevating, even instead of just using directly the word, we are forcing people to think beyond.
Bigger.
So
Nobility.
that is nobility. We keep elevating. Sanskrit as a language forces you to think just beyond the direct that you what you see as is. It helps you to think about more and more context and takes your thinking upward and upward to all the way up to the level of creation. Because this Indra and Shiva that you saw exist not just in your senses and your body, but they are also applicable all the way up to the level of how the creation itself happened. Universe, creation of this prapancha happened.
Incidentally, you can see our films on creation. We'll show you in the end of the presentation where to go watch all those films. Okay, we have made a lot of short films. So, see, you can this Kalidasa.
That's why it's a noble language, Arya Bhasha.
But having said this, then ma'am mentioned about Dandi about 20 minutes back. So Dandi, from his times only, it's being called as Samskrit. It's being called formally as Sanskrit, which is what he says. So while the name, and Kanchipuram is a place where he probably wrote this from the Rajasimha Pallava times, the period thereabouts. So you have Sanskrit, what we call today, coming right through, but more so specifically mentioned from this period. So what's the word Samskritam mean? Krit, do. Samskritam, a job well done, a refined language. And who is probably the earliest to use the word Sanskrit? Any idea? We find mention of the phrase Sanskrit in Valmiki Ramayana itself. And who is the one who uses it? Hanuman. He probably mentioned it because he's thinking about what language he has to speak to Sita Ma. Should I speak in Sanskrit? Because if I speak in Sanskrit, she may think that he is come as a man of Ravana, who is also a Sanskrit scholar. He's a Vedic scholar. So should I speak to him in Dravida Bhasha or Sanskrit? Which language? He is ruminating himself. He's thinking about himself. So that is where you find the early mention of the word Samskritam in Ramayana itself. So he could speak many languages. So when you say that Hanuman was a grammarian himself, early grammarian, Hanuman himself, so he knew Samskritam grammar as well to be an early grammarian. Now look at this. We all look at, no, let's look at, so it's there.
So do you know the title Hanuman has got therefore as an early grammarian? Are you familiar with one of Hanuman's titles?
There are many titles.
One of them particularly to do with being a grammarian and especially in grammar and Samskrita grammar. Anybody knows how people address Hanuman?
In scholarly circles.
You'll find that in a lot of music about Hanuman. That's how they refer to him. They call him a Vyakarna Pandit. They call him Vyakarna Panditam.
So he is a grammarian himself. Now, let us see this. Suppose we have seen that Panini is a grammarian. And we have roughly placed Panini around 500 CE. BCE, I'm sorry. That's about from our period of 2020 CE. He goes back to about 1500 years plus. So he's very early, very old. Because he's 1500 years old. But from Panini's time of 500 BCE, if you go back to Hanuman's time, Sita Mata's time, that's Ramayana, that is 5100 BCE. Now, where does this put? How many years before Panini, Patanjali is Hanuman? He goes back to about 4500 years. While from our times now, Panini is 1500 years ago, and we call him old and early grammarian. Then look at the grammar that Sanskrit language has got, going back 4500 years before Panini. 3 times the antiquity between us and Panini is the antiquity between Panini and Hanuman.
And that time also grammar was there, because he is referred to as a Vyakarna Pandit. So it is not just a language, but a language with grammar, with rules, with regulations, with constructs. So Vyakarna. And all the shlokam also for Hanuman. Buddhir bhalam yasho dhairyam nirbhayatvam arogatam ajatyam vakpatutvam cha. Hanumat smaranat bhavet. Vakpatutvam. So he had vak. So language, Hanuman and language are very, very closely connected.
Now, is Hanuman the first grammarian of Sanskrit language? No.
Obviously not, because by his time itself, Vyakaranam was there.
So he was a later grammarian.
And the clue lies in the fact that he's saying, if I speak in Sanskrit, she may think I am Ravana's man, because Ravana is very
Well-versed
proficient
in
in Sanskrit.
Samskritam.
So before him, even Ravana was well versed in Samskritam.
So look at this. So this is 500 BC, that is 2500 years ago. That's 2000 years to 2000 CE. We are in 2020 CE. Before that, so 500 BCE. So 2500 years ago, you have this. Then you have 4500 years. Before that, you have Hanuman, Sita, Mata, Ravana, Rama, Valmiki, all of them great pandits of Sanskrit. And language is much before them. Look at the antiquity of language. Can outside Tamil,
What is meaning for Panini?
I think Dr. Usha's ma'am will be able to explain that to you very well. Okay, she will certainly do it. Okay, now I'm getting on. Just give me a few minutes to finish your point and come there. So, can we think of any other language outside of Tamil, anywhere in the world, that has got this antiquity? Because Tamil and Sanskrit, we have seen similar twinning antiquity. We have expressed it very clearly, and we've seen it with facts. Can you think of any language in the world? You may say Latin, Lithuanian, Greek, Roman. You can say any language, Chinese, Korean, Japanese, all this. But none of them go back beyond 2500, 3000 years. We're talking antiquity of 7000 plus years. Isn't it amazing that we are a proud progeny of this illustrious lineage? A wonderful lineage. Amazing, isn't it? And we have the pokisham. As you say in Hindi, you call it khazana. Up to today, you know, khazana has a jewelry shop. But it's a Urdu word actually. It's not even a Hindi word, it's an Urdu word.
Kosh.
Kosh. We have kosh. Okay.
So Pokisham, Kosh.
Both similar. Both, see, kosh in Hindi, Sanskrit, pokisham in Tamil, both similar. They have the same root. See, like that. So we are now talking about evolution of Sanskrit. So on Samskrit Day, we wanted to bring out that antiquity of this language and going back to Hanuman times very clearly. See, look at this, the shlokas that he uses. Shloka 1520 in Sundarakandam. I'm sure all of you would have read Sundarakandam or heard about Sundarakandam. You can read this there. The translations are there and the details are there. See, it's a referred to a well-made spoken language by human beings. So it's already mentioned there. Manusha Bhasha. And I'm going to come to one more word for you. Since ma'am, when she introduced us, so kind of her, nice of her to say that we have traveled widely all over the world. Thank you, ma'am, for saying it. I'm going to ask a question on this point. We use the word Bhasha. That's what Patanjali uses, Panini uses, Kalidasa uses, and Dandi also uses. All of them use the word Bhasha uniformly across times. Do you know another word language used in 2-3 different countries, which is also very similar to Bhasha in lot of their vocabulary, and the language is also the language word is also similar to Bhasha and has a close connect with the Indian languages, both Tamil, Odia, Samskritam, all that, and used in more than 2-3 countries. Anybody would like to guess? Anybody would like to guess it? Which other word language going back millennia?
It sounds like Bhasha also. It sounds very much like Bahasa. The word, the language, name of that language. Have you all ever come across a language called Bahasa? Have you heard of this language?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Bahasa. Bahasa is the language which is spoken in Malaysia, Indonesia, and many of these Southeast Asian countries. They have variants of the Bahasa language. So look at that. For them, it was what is Bhasha has become Bahasa. And the greatest clue and similarity of the link, you will find, what do you call brother, sister here in Tamil? See, so many things actually are merging together in these two words and where they are spoken. What do we call brothers and sisters here in Tamil?
Annan, Thambi.
Annan,
Sahodaran, Sahodari.
colloquial.
Colloquial.
Otherwise,
Sagodaran, Sagodari.
Sahodaran, Sahodari.
Why?
Why do we say Sahodaran, Sahodari? Do you accept Sahodaran, Sahodari is a Tamil word? Is it a common Tamil word? Do you accept? Yes, no? So, yes, Akhila?
Saha Udaram. That is from the stomach, it means.
Exactly. Saha Udaram, Saha. So, Sahodaram, Sahodari. Right? So, Tamil uses these two as a more honorific way of addressing a brother and sister. Anna, Tangachi, Akka, that's all more, what shall we say? Colloquial and more natural. They are more natural language.
Speaking tongue, whereas
like the way
literally
you have Prakrit and Samskrit. Prakrit, which is a more natural way of speaking, and Sanskrit, which is a refined way of speaking. That way we have Anna, Akka, Amma. These are all natural. A child says Amma first. So that is one. But then you also have Tai. You have Annai. So that is a more elevated way of speaking, a more refined way of speaking. So like that, Sahodara, and this word Sahodara is, you find it's having a lot of roots in Samskritam. And look at where it is being spoken. It is being in Malaysia, even today, when they address meetings, the leader who's going to speak, he will stand, pick up the mic, and he will say, Sodara, Sodari. So, Sodara, Sodari, the Sahodara and Sahodari has now morphed and become Sodara, Sodari.
The way Swami Vivekananda said, no, brothers and sisters of America, he started like that. Even though Mahathir Mohamad, the president of Malaysia, even now when he gets up and makes a speech, how does he start a speech with? Sodara, Sodari.
So today they may be a Islamic country, but their language still says Sodara, Sodari. And the language is still called Bahasa to show its connect with Bhasha.
So the umbilical cord of the language is very clearly there to Bhasha. Can you see the connects now happening world over? This only when you really go and see those languages and talk to them, identify with them, you'll get this. Now having said this, we'll take one more very interesting thing for the next 10-15 minutes as to the alphabets of this language.
Because we have said it is refined and it's a well-done language. So how is it refined? How is it so perfect? How is it well done? That is an aspect we'll see now.
So I'm going to speak to you about this aspect. All of you are aware of the Roman alphabets, so A, B, C, D, E, Arabic, Aleph, Be, Gim, Pe, Te, Greek, Alpha, Beta, Gamma, Delta, which use in mathematics, algebra and all those things. Did you ever see any reason why should B come after A? Why could C come after B? Or D follows a C? Anybody have ever thought of any scientific reasoning for any of this? Have you ever thought of it? Is there ever any scientific
Why
reason?
not A, C, B, E, D and so on?
Why can't you start with LMNO, P, Q and then say A, B, C, D?
And it's not like A is a vowel, then B, C, D, then E is a vowel. At least in Sanskrit, you have a, e, and all
Tamil
that.
also same thing.
Tamil, I mean, all Indian
Veeral.
languages. When we say A, our mouth opens. Yes.
Fine. So what?
But even then, our mouth doesn't open. It just says A. You're actually compressing the sound. You're not even letting it out as A.
Did you ever think of it? Whereas, let's look at this from Indian languages. All Indian languages, be it Sanskrit, because today it's a Sanskrit day, we're showing Sanskrit. On other day, so look at this. The sequence of your alphabets is all so scientific. I'm sure you have all read about this. Heard
This
about
is
it.
how you all would have even started your learning of Samskritam.
Okay, look at this. We talk about in Devanagari script, and so be it Punjabi or Assamese or Manipuri, this is the same thing followed all across India.
Even in Tamil, it is like this only. Ka, cha, ta, ta, para. So you may have a shortened sequence, but then the sequence stays the same. And the reason is first your ka. Ka, when you say that, it is coming from your throat. From your throat, it's coming. Then from your palate is your cha. When it tongue touches here, we can look at the animation once again. Then when it touches the roof, you have ta. Then when it touches the teeth, you have your ta. And then with your lip, you have your pa. So you are seeing, we'll play this once again for you. So the column of air, if you see, is getting reduced, restricted. So the air that is coming from your nabhi is this much. Now it is coming just from your throat palate. Cha, the back of your throat. Then the air is vibrated at this point. Ta. Then ta here.
Look at this sign. Using your oral cavity, your biology of your mouth, your sequence of sound have been designed to be received by nature. No other language in the world has it like this. No other ancient language. Look at the beauty of that. Is what it is. See, and it's called scientific names, all attached to your oral cavity of your mouth, which actually expresses these sounds. And there's a shloka for it. Why it is so? So he's a philologist. Today he's become philology as a new subject. Here is a man who is not certainly not the first, but one of the early ones. Philologist going back millennia. You think it's a new modern science of linguistics. Look at this going back millennia. He's talking about using the cavity of the mouth to generate these sounds, using the channel of the throat. Amazing, see? Talk about phonetics, going back millennia.
And you all would have been, you all would have been taught all of this. Now comes the interesting question. So this in our Sanskrit and our Indian languages, you find a very clear placement of the vowels, and then you have all the consonants which are placed in the order of the column of air when where the point it gets vibrated and so on. But what about English and other European languages? And the alphabets in all those languages, if you closely look at it, most of the European languages, they have the same A, B, C, D, but they are said slightly differently, but fundamentally it's A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So there is this big debate whether Sanskrit is the mother of European languages or European languages mother of Sanskrit. Now here is one very important clue. What did we see as the main aspect in these? We saw it is the sound, right? And what do we call sound in English?
Phonetics.
Phonetics, very good. Why do we call it phonetics? And do we know of a place which is connected? Here is where the beauty is, okay? So phonetics, if you see, when you look at these, see all these A, B, C, D, they owe it to the Greek alphabets. And they are called the abecedary system. Now, what do the Greeks say if you trace their history? They in turn trace the origin of their alphabets to the Mycenaean script, which they call Linear B. So Mycene was another place very close to Greek. Actually, today what we call Greek was a collection of Mycene, ancient Greece, Macedonia, so many other places close to nearby and all that.
Nearby states, nearby small kingdoms.
Today, they have all become consolidated into one country, which is called Greek.
Greece.
Now, Greece, sorry. The linear B that they're talking about, this in turn traces its origins to linear A, which they call as the hieroglyphic script of the Minoans. So the Minoans were a people who were before the Greeks.
And they are in the Aegean, there's an island, Minoa is an island in Aegean Sea.
Aegean Sea is the sea which is
below Greece.
Around Greece.
It's now a part of the country of Greece.
Now, these Minoans, they say they were closely influenced by Phoenicians. So, there were people called Phoenicians, and their land was called Phoenicia. And so, they say that we were influenced by Phoenicians and their alphabets. And the Phoenician script is said to be the precursor of all European and West Asian scripts such as Latin, Greek, Roman, Hebrew, and Aramaic, Arabic also. So Phoenician script is the basis. And if you look at it, these are the Phoenician alphabets. This is how the Phoenician alphabets were written. And fundamentally, they comprise 22 alphabets. And the important feature, this is what I want you all to pay attention on. The important feature of the Phoenician script was that it was sound-based rather than symbol-based like the hieroglyphs. Okay. Now, what is the difference between sound-based and hieroglyphs? When you say it is sound-based and a hieroglyph language, a phonetic language versus a hieroglyph language, can anybody say what is the difference? See, fundamentally, okay, it also brings up the next question about language versus speaking versus writing. So when you talk about alphabets, you are coming to the stage of writing. So we are now talking about script. You can speak a language. The speaking need not change at all. But the same spoken sound can be written in n number of ways. So the scripts can be very, very different. So what you learn today as Samskrit scripts, the Devanagari script, the A, the way we write it today, that is fairly recent. And that has been written in many other script forms. But the fundamental fact that it was A, and K, G, G and all that, that has not changed and has remained all the way from old grammar times. Now, Phoenicia, so when you say hieroglyph versus phonetic, phonetic means it goes by sound. So if I say something, I use symbols to represent the sound being spoken. In hieroglyphs, I use some images to represent the idea, not the sound. So Egyptian hieroglyphs or the Indus Valley scripts, they are all rebus. So they are all images of an idea. They represent an idea. So they're more like logo language, emojis. Somebody raised your hand. What is your question? Yeah, 2 hands have come up. Any question? Please feel free to ask. Or you can wait till I finish this point and then we can get into question answers also. So this Phoenician script actually, we'll just go ahead and complete this point and then we can go into discussion. So it is from this Phoenician script that, it is from Phoenicia. So that is why speech sounds came to be called phonemes. So each Phoenician alphabet or pattern drawn was a sound unit as against hieroglyphs like those of Egypt. Until then, they were more used to hieroglyphs from Egypt, where it was a symbolic representation, like a logo or emoji. And from then on, from Phoenician alphabet only, it became phoneme. And it came from Phoenicia, therefore, based on the origin of concept of sound units from Phoenicia. So this is how actually script writing started in the Western world, and these were the Phoenician alphabets. So A, B, C, D. So, but they called it A, B, G, D, like that it went. Okay. Now,
Look at all the ports there of the Phoenicia.
so this is where Phoenicia was. Many of you may not know because this is part of all ancient history.
It is part of the eastern coast of the Mediterranean Sea.
See here.
We just used a magnifying glass to magnify it for you.
So what you're seeing in this circle is actually here. So this is Arabia, and then where Arabia opens into the Mediterranean Sea. So here is Italy, Greece, and all. They're all in this part, Mediterranean. And here is Phoenicia. So from here, it traveled to all these places within the Mediterranean, from here to the back and then to
So
Arabia.
it is the eastern coast of the Mediterranean Sea. Now, which is the important ports of Phoenicia?
Can you see this?
Look at this very important port of Phoenicia. What is it called? Name of this place called?
Can you see this port here?
What is it called? Anybody?
Byblos.
Byblos.
Byblos. So that is where they did the writing, Byblos, from which you get the word Bible, from which you get the bibliography. Bibliothèque is a library, isn't it? So look at that. So all comes from the name of a port called Byblos.
Because it is the Phoenicians who started writing, script writing based on sound for whole of the West. Now these Phoenicians, very interestingly, all their alphabets have been traced in recent times to map to our Sanskrit system.
So the Phoenician alphabets have their roots, the way she showed, the Greek, Latin have it to Minoans, linear B, linear A, which traces it to Phoenicia, and which in turn traces it back to Samskrit. Look at this.
So there is a person called Wim Borsboom. If you can look him up, you can find out a lot about how he has derived his entire analysis.
And he is analyzed about the Western alphabet, ABC alphabet.
And he says, look at what he says. How the Phoenician alphabet was a copy of the Indian alphabet system. How the Indian alphabet system, that is called Abu Gida, from pre-Ashokan Brahmi script days, it was a scientific matrix. We all know about that. Now, how this matrix arrangement allowed organizations of sounds. Again, these you all know very well. And how a Near Eastern, a West Asia person.
That is, for them it is Near Eastern, for us it is West Asia.
That means predominantly Arabia and Israel, Iraq, around
Syria,
that area.
Jordan, all that areas.
Including Phoenicia. He made a copy of this matrix around 1250 BCE.
Now, this matrix meaning of the Sanskrit text matrix.
The way we arrange the vowels and then the consonants below. But he erred in a couple of places. And it is because of this error, the alphabets went out of sequence in Arabic, Aramaic, and all those places, and subsequently far west. That means in English and other languages. So he shows how the Sanskrit alphabets have, he says that the Devanagari alphabets are based on these Brahmi. That is different. That's a different context. But then that is all still confined within Sanskrit. But the idea is that these Sanskrit alphabets and the way we organize sounds, that is fundamentally what has driven the ABCDE system itself of the West.
So what we have in Sanskrit, Tamil and all other Indic languages is a scientific methodology of using the oral cavity of our body, which actually speaks these languages, to come up with a sequence of vowels, consonants, what you call uyireluthu, meyyeluthu, uyir meyyeluthu. Similarly in Sanskrit also, and then we come up with this language beautifully constructed from nature. Okay, using our senses, using our life, we come up with this
And
language.
our body,
Our
physical
body.
features of our body, they are very, very important in the evolution of language, which is why you find even within India, you will find certain people from different regions. See, there are so many things that go. Language is influenced by your physical features of your, especially your mouth, your lips, your teeth, your jaw, and all that. And that in turn is very highly, I mean, that in turn, again, your nose bridge, your eyes, all of that is in turn influenced by the place where you live. So whether is it a mountain, whether is it by a coast, a sunny area, and so various aspects influence eventually the sounds that can come out from every individual.
So your geography and topography in turn induces it. So that's why you got so many wonderful languages in India. Each is native vernacular language of the land, which is influenced not only by our living body and our senses and our life, but also by the geography, by the topography, and all other factors around it.
And that is why you also find so many Bedams. Rala Bedam, Saha Bedam, Rada Bedam, so many aspects. So can you explain? Okay, now let me just look at the chat box. Yeah. Can you explain its connection with the Indo-Aryan languages? Please drop the word Indo-Aryan.
There's nothing called Indo-Aryan. That's all a very colonial, Anglican construct to say that yours is nothing native. We came Aryan and we gave you knowledge, we gave you language. Before that, you are Buddhu, you are barbarians. That is the perspective. Nothing called Indo-Aryan language.
Indo-European, yes, that's what they call it now. But you can very clearly see how it is the Indo, which is the root for most of these.
All the languages, okay?
So for regarding sharing, this is actually not a PPT. You would have seen we have gone through different of our multimedia compilation and also the book. This particular book that we refer to is called, I'll show you where you can find some resources. Maybe we can end with a small film on Samskrit if you want.
You can visit our website, bharatgyan.com.
This is our website.
Please go there. You will get
One
a lot
second,
of
am I sharing?
Are we sharing screen?
No, I don't think you're sharing.
No, ma'am.
Yeah, one second.
You can visit our website, bharatgyan.com, where you will get.
Now, can you see our website?
Yes,
Bharatgyan.com.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so just go to this website, and here are books and mini books. The difference is the mini books, you can read them online.
For free.
They are just there right on the website. You can read it on the website itself. And we have one on some language. No, this. So they're arranged on topics. So you can read whatever
as many
you
as
want.
you want. It's all available there for your reading.
So like this, it goes about various aspects. And the others are the books. You can even pick them, go to the books from here, quick menu, the books. So these are printed and they're also available in Kindle form. And what I showed you right now is from Leeds, not Leeds. Part of it was from Leeds from India and part of it is from Breaking the Myths About Ability.
All the books are available for read in our website and also in Kindle, those who want to read from your laptop or system. So we have authored in the series called Autobiography of India, 100 volumes. All of them available for you to read now. Okay?
And finally,
we'll end the session.
There are a lot of articles that you can pick up from our blog. Just click on this, it will take you to our blog.
And there's an article on World Samskrit Day as well. You can go to our blog and read the article. There are about 500 plus articles for you to read.
Samskrit Dinam. So you can search, you can read many such articles. And similarly, we have our YouTube channel here. If you click on this, you will come to our YouTube channel, which is called Bharath Gyan. I'll show you afresh itself. So this is our YouTube channel. Go to the playlists. In this, based on topic, many films are arranged here.
We have made over 400 short films.
So all the topics, many different topics, they are there. Some are Tamil talks as well. And in this, in one of the topics, which is called Amazing India. This is Amazing India. In this, there are about some 84 films. They're all short 2-minute films. One of them is about Sanskrit. We'll just play that for you now. Google, I don't know if, I think if it's from the web, it will give the sound.
All the short films are there for you to watch.
Are you hearing the sound?
The word Sanskrit
Could you hear the sound?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
comes from sam, meaning good, refined, beautiful, and krit, meaning to do or done. The word Sanskrit means done to perfection or well done. It is a language that is refined and well done. Sanskrit is a language that has evolved out of humans listening to the sounds that they heard in nature. The early humans who conceptualized and formed this language used about 200 root sounds which came from various phenomena and sounds in nature. These root sounds are called as dhatu fundamentals. The entire language has more or less evolved from these 200 dhatu root sounds. Each of these sounds has a guna, or even multiple guna. The term guna can be roughly understood by us today to mean quality or characteristic. So each dhatu represents a quality. Each of these sounds has a guna, or even multiple guna. The term guna can be roughly understood by us today to mean quality or characteristic. So each dhatu represents a quality. This quality or characteristic, when expressed as a sound, forms a syllable. Joining of various syllables forms words, which, through the dhatus in them and the characteristic, convey the meaning of the word. Speech, due to the physical components of the vocal system, is limited in its expression of subtle thought and emotions. Speech thus distorts experience. Since the dhatus originate from nature, with their various permutations and combinations, they are able to cover much of the spectrum of various phenomena in nature, of gross and subtle, of science and arts, of living and non-living, actions, motions, emotions. Thus this language is able to express and come closest to nature. Just as trees and animals are part of nature, humans are also part of nature. Quite often, we tend to forget that humans are also part of nature. In its journey of generations and generations of adaptation, this language was fine-tuned and came to be a well-constructed language, which is why it was given the name Samskrit, meaning a job well done. It is also said to be technically perfect. Amongst the languages, Sanskrit is probably one of the older languages, if not the oldest language of the world. The oldest available compendium of the knowledge of the world is in the Veda. This Veda has been composed in the Sanskrit language. It is amazing to think that a language that started more than 7,000 years ago is such a refined language. Question remains that if this is a refined language, was there another older language that was not fully refined? What were the people speaking before Sanskrit? The home of knowledge, wisdom, and philosophy for thousands of years.
So like this, you can go to our YouTube. There are over 400 such films, and there are about 500 plus articles you can read, and all our books you can please read and enjoy this knowledge of our civilization, Bharath Gyan. Okay, those who want to follow us on social media, you can do that on Twitter, because every day we tweet something about the Indian civilization, at Bharath Gyan. It's there. You can go to it from our website itself. And before we close for the day, because well over an hour now, an hour and 15 minutes, we'd like to once again thank Professor Usha ma'am for introducing us again to this important, wonderful institution, college, and to be associated with you once again after a decade, nearly after a decade. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. Namaskaram.
Namaskaram to all. And hope with this you'll all get more interest in Samskritam and learn it as a mainstream language itself and not just keep it as a ancillary language. That is the whole initiative what we're trying to do. So you can use it so
And
well.
you can induce others also to talk about, because obviously you have seen the importance and you can take this message forward to the others as well.
And this recording will be available once ma'am shares with us. We can put it up on our website also. So those who want to revisit it and clarify certain doubts, I think it will be available there for all of you once it's done. Okay. Thank you. Namaskaram.